welcome back to Confessions of a Game Girl podcast. I'm your host, Doomcutie, and I have my lovely panelist, Ellie, with me.
Hello, hello.
And Lishi is away today, so we've got Jessie James, or you might know her as the Geek GG. She's going to be sitting in her spot today.
I'm a very late addition, but hello. Thank you for having me.
We are so grateful to have you. I was trying to see how it would work with just three of us, and I was like, oh gosh. So thank you so much, so much.
Yeah, of course.
For
thank you for having me here.
And our esteemed guest, Kim Bender. She is the Senior Community Manager for Bethesda ANZ and SEA. What does SEA stand for? Southeast Asia?
Southeast Asia, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
excellent.
So, yeah, we look after that region as well, which is pretty cool. Dipping our toes in, very new, but definitely a learning curve, but I'm super excited.
Oh, awesome. Well, to start us off today, I think maybe, I'm not sure if people know exactly who you guys are. So, Jessie, if maybe you want to just tell people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I stream on Twitch as like my main kind of job. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've actually been working with Bethesda for like most of that time too. Yeah, and I do a little bit of like hosting and presenting in the industry if there's jobs around, which there aren't very many. I actually have seen a couple of people from my community hanging out in the chat. So hi guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Cool. Oh, sorry, I jumped in.
No, that's okay.
So I'm Kim, Senior Community Manager at Bethesda, Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia. I've been in the industry for about 7 years now. So prior to working at Bethesda, I was at Ubisoft for 4 years, doing the same kind of thing, community management. And I joined Bethesda about 3 years ago now. So it's, strange turn of events. Like Bethesda was my favorite video game company, so actually getting a job with Bethesda was a dream come true, and then getting to work on Skyrim, which was the game that kind of kickstarted me into the Bethesda camp, and then doing like the anniversary edition, I was like, I've just made a full circle and I've made it back to where I should be. So no, it's been awesome. But yeah, that's sort of been my little trip in the gaming industry.
That's amazing. It's so interesting to see where people start and where they end up eventually when they do feel like they're in a comfortable position or like one of the highest positions that they have had, it's so awesome to see. And I love that. I love community managers in the sense of they create such a fantastic bridge between creators and game enthusiasts in general to these games. And yeah, you guys do fabulous work, so thank you for all that you do.
Oh no, thank you. We couldn't do it without obviously the community, because then we would have nothing to do. So it's definitely the community that gives us the inspires us, and obviously gives us the push to go and do bigger, better things. So no, we need you guys. We love you guys, and we need you.
Okay, well, let's get into sorry. Now I'm sorry. I've been talking a lot this morning. I have had a big day. I've just come off a nearly 3-hour podcast talking about the ABK acquisition. So mostly. So yeah. So definitely haven't had my coffee yet either. Let's get into today's topic. So today's topic is all about game events. Now, I do want to go around and ask everyone, what was the first gaming event that you ever went to? Ellie, why don't you start?
Oh, gaming event. I think I started that quite late in life, because during my time, I started properly getting into gaming in high school, and I only realistically had another friend that properly played video games. And most of the time I find like the bigger ones can be sometimes for older kids, I guess, like, as like if I for an example, PAX, you can go as like a younger teenager, but I think because there's so many adults there, it's quite intimidating. So I didn't really know about events really until I was a bit older, and so my first one would have been PAX, so the expo in Melbourne, and I only went for the first time last year, so I'm a newbie with all of these events, and oh my gosh, I was so mind blown. I was like, how have I not come earlier? Like, this is amazing. So I can't wait for this year when I go for a couple days. And then outside of that, I would love to do more like bigger events, but can't believe it took me so long to go.
All right. Jessie, what was your first gaming event? I'm interested to hear this one.
Honestly, I think I'm kind of the same. I think it might have been PAX, and I think that's partly because up until I started doing this as a job, I was a bit of a closet gamer. Like I think again, being a woman, it's always been a thing that I've had my few mates that played games, and I grew up playing them like with my sister and playing them at home, but it was never something that, in fact, funnily enough, after leaving school, it was very much something that I kind of didn't tell a lot of my friends about or talk to my friends about. I only had those few friends that I'd play with, but for the most part within my friend groups, nobody played games, and I kind of never spoke about it or really did anything publicly, I guess, about it. So I kind of didn't really go to any because I had no friends that would have gone with me until I kind of got into this industry and started doing like the streaming, and I was doing YouTube stuff and writing articles. And in all honesty, the only time I've ever been to any sort of event or convention like PAX has been for work stuff. I've never really been as just like me going to one of these events just to enjoy it, which I still do when I'm working, but it also kind of just makes it work. So yeah, honestly, I think it would have been a PAX maybe 7-8 years ago would have been my first convention. And that would have been just because I was doing it for work by that point.
Yeah, no, that is definitely fair enough. I can definitely relate to not feeling like I have a group of friends to go to these kinds of things with. And I'm also all the way over in WA, so we don't have as many large events as perhaps the main cities have. Although I haven't always lived in WA. I moved to Perth, oh gosh, would have been 12 years now. So up until I was 21, I lived in Sydney. But like you said, I didn't have a group of friends that I could really go to these events with and enthuse about this kind of thing. So yeah, I think a lot of us are in a similar situation to that. So, but thanks so much for sharing. Kim, what about you?
So I literally just jumped on my phone then to look through my Facebook pictures because I remember I remembered very evidently I think it was the first one I've went to was EB Expo in 2012. I think it was my first ever event. And I remember dragging my partner at the time, like still my partner now. And he was a big gamer. He's like, oh, I didn't know you were into games. And I was like, yes, now I have someone who can come with me. And I remember that year it was like Mortal Kombat was there at the expo. And I was like, Ed Boon was in town, and I was like, I'm going to his panel. And I went on the Saturday, and it's like, oh, he left. He was here on Friday. And I was like, the one person I came for this whole expo is in here. But yeah, I think it was EB Expo. I think 2012 was the first event, and I was just a consumer. I didn't work in the industry yet. So yeah, I think that was my first ever event. And I think from that moment, I was like, this is awesome. I wish I could work in the gaming industry. Had no idea that gaming companies had offices in Australia at all until I got out of uni. So that was super interesting. But yeah, EB Expo 2012, I'm fairly certain was my first event.
Wow. All right. Well, I have to say mine, don't I? Yes. I don't know if this counts as an event, but I remember lining up at an EB Games for release of a game, and they had I can't remember what it was, but they had all of these like themed games and music and DJ and balloons and all kinds of stuff. They don't do anything like that anymore. Hey, like when games come out, they don't get launched like that at the game stores.
I did go to a midnight release for, I think it would have been Fallout 4 to pick up like a collector's edition. And but I like they normally do but it's like just line up and get your game kind of thing and then leave. They don't really make too much of a big deal about it anymore. I did actually work at EB, so funnily enough, I think the first convention I went to was also an EB Expo, but I was just working for EB Games and I didn't really see the expo much at all. Completely forgot about that. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, so but outside of that, I'm a bit like Ellie. I'm late to the piece also because being a gamer and being a person who has gaming as a hobby, it's expensive. It's a lot of money that and there's so much choice out there these days. So I think that for me, the thing that really kept me away from attending events like this like PAX, for example, was money. So it wasn't until I started working full time myself that I was able to have the budget to not only gain a collection, but also, have the funds to travel to these events, because it can be quite expensive.
Yeah, definitely. Considering PAX is what, like $70 a day, and I think that's even early bird pricing. Like it does get super expensive, and it's also disappointing when you go to some of the smaller ones and it literally ends up being like an hour or two of an event. Like you don't have to stay there the whole day, but PAX is really good with that. Is honestly, you can spend the whole day there or spend the whole weekend there, and there's always stuff to do and see.
Yeah, definitely. But I suppose that people who are in the entry level, they might not know what's good. Like I guess we put a lot of time and effort into investigating, what is going to be great, who's going to be where, looking at schedules, that kind of thing. I feel that maybe just the regular kind of gamer might not know all that kind of stuff.
I think one of the things that I've noticed about PAX too is that as much as it's definitely about the stuff that's there and the things that you can do there, it's such a big community event as well. Like people go because they know that everybody that they game with is probably going to be there as well. And it's so much about just getting to like hang out with everybody that you know from that kind of gaming community, because PAX is the one that, if you're having to travel interstate, people are going to do it for PAX before they do it for anything else. And that's something that I've always loved about going down to PAX, is just seeing these groups of people catching up with each other that might not see each other in person much. Because, I mean, as you guys probably know from experience as well, not everyone that we game with necessarily lives in the same city as us.
Yeah.
You don't really get a chance to see any of these people until something like PAX, which is big enough to kind of draw everybody into the one spot for a whole weekend. And it's just one of the things that I love that I don't feel like many of the smaller conventions have, is just that kind of huge community element, and just seeing everybody get to catch up with each other. And it's so nice. It's just such a good vibe being down there every year and just getting to see all these people getting to catch up with each other, whether they see anything in the convention hall or not. Like, it's really, really, really lovely.
I totally agree with that. I think, that's definitely one of the things where people make it's the one event of the year that people kind of save for. I know, like, prior to working in the industry, I was just like, okay, well, this is the one event that me and my partner, we just had to go to. I was like, Sydney's easy, we can catch a train. But I was like, Melbourne, it's like, okay, we've got to save up in advance. We've got to book the hotels because we know there's going to be absolutely nothing close by. I remember we were like an hour and a half away for our first ever PAX, and I was actually a PAX enforcer when the first PAX happened. I was like, I have to be a part of this. I want to be in the gaming industry, and so I applied to be a PAX enforcer, got it. My partner didn't, and he was devastated, and I was like, but being like an hour and a half away just because we had to go, but there was no accommodation. So it was one of those things where PAX becomes like the event of the year for gamers and, gaming community to get together. So, everybody's got to be there. So you've got to be there. So I found that, you're totally right. It is expensive, but people make it the event that they have to go to for the year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it is. It's what you make of it, really. It's the community that makes it. But I think they do something really clever, which I'm not sure if other organizations of these kinds of events do, and that's they really enable the community. So they are asking for people to do panels. They are asking people to host events in their space, gatherings, that kind of thing, holding stalls, all that kind of thing. I feel like it's really accessible for people to, not only go to the event, but participate in the event, whether it be, you are on a panel or you're an enforcer. Like it's so open. And enforcers do they get a free ticket?
Yes, I think when I was it was the first year. I'm digging real deep trying to remember. I'm fairly certain for the days that you work, you get like a pass.
Okay.
For it, and I worked all 3 days back in the day. And I'm fairly certain.
It's the same with panels. On the day your panel is on, you get a ticket because you're obviously providing an experience for people that are attending. So I think probably that's the reason why it has been probably the most successful.
One of the things they actually did during COVID was like they had the online version of PAX, but they also made their Discord like a massive part of that just to kind of keep that community vibe going. It worked really, really well, and they did a brilliant job of it. And I think it helps that it is such a big community event that people who couldn't go in person, obviously, because the convention wasn't running for 2 years, had somewhere where they could still hang out with all of these people that normally would be there. And so I'm really impressed with how well they managed to still kind of keep that going, even though they didn't have the in-person event. You'd think that would kind of kill that whole sort of vibe every year, but no, there were a lot of people, like a huge community involved in the Discord, and so they did a really good job of keeping that alive. And then last year's was massive. I lost my voice after day one, and just getting to catch up with all these people that I hadn't seen for like 3 years, and it was brilliant. And it was almost like you didn't even realize that it hadn't been running for 2 years, because so many people were just so excited to be there that I think it's the biggest PAX I've been to in 8 years was last year.
Yeah, it was incredible. The last year's PAX was the first one I went to, same with Ellie. So I think, for me, like I think I totaled like 100,000 steps over the 3 days. It was nuts. Yeah, I'll track it again this year and see if I can break that. But yeah, just. And I can already tell, like, from the way that you all speak about it, like this is really close to everyone's hearts. Like outside of console warring or whose favorite game is what or whatever. Like this is it. Like this is the heart of gaming, and this is the role that gaming events play to the people that play the games. It's all the people that like the same stuff in the same place, and it's so much fun. Okay, so Kim, I want to ask, like, on the side of an organizer, what would you what are some challenges that you face? So if you are holding a stall, or perhaps it's a private event for for a game release or something like that, what kinds of challenges do you face?
There are so many. The one that we kind of have recently run into quite a lot, and I'm sure this has been for a long time, like I think I got it at Ubisoft as well, was where are we going to hold an event? Because you will hold an event in Sydney and then everyone will be like, what about Melbourne? Why aren't you in Melbourne, guys? And it's like, oh, okay, yep, okay, so then we'll hold an event in Melbourne. It's like Sydney's like, what about us? Like, Sydney, why don't you have an event in Sydney? And then it's like Brisbane put their hand up, and then obviously, and then Perth. And we're like, oh, okay, we need to stop, and we just need to figure out like where we're going to be. Like, if we're going to PAX, which is in Melbourne, do we do something in Sydney instead? Or, like that is the first hurdle that we often go through. And we're just trying to figure out like, okay, where should we go? Is it close to PAX? Well, then, okay, we'll just go to Melbourne because we're already there in the city, and we'll do it there. So that's the first hurdle we have to cross. The next part is, I think it's like, this is the boring parts of it, but obviously it's super integral for events. It's just logistics. And I know that sounds super boring. I'm so sorry, chat, but it is actually one of the hardest things. Is like organizing like game code, consoles, what are we going to be showing at the event? Like what kind of stuff do we need to be taking? The most underestimated thing is things like scissors or sticky tape or rubber band. Like you'd be so surprised. We'll rock up to an event and everyone's like, how do we open our boxes that we've all packed and shipped down? It's like, does anyone have scissors? No. And so it's so simple. Things that you just don't think of become like your biggest problems. But logistics is definitely a big one. Like, I mean, I share this, is like for Worlds of Bethesda last year, our consoles didn't arrive in time for the event. And we were just like, we had this whole area that we were going to dedicate to like legacy games, like old school Doom, old school Wolfenstein. And we were going to have like these spots. And we're just like, where are the consoles? Like, and they just never arrived. And so we're like, well, what do we do with these little areas that we've created? And we're like, we just have to, like, thinking on the fly and being able to like, just like pivot your plans and not be married to an idea because it might not happen. That was something that I had to learn very quickly throughout all my events, was you have to just be very flexible with what's going on. So we ended up just changing it to trailers running, and I was like, okay, we'll just put some goodies in this room to make it kind of feel like a little bit more like it's vibing, like, there's no consoles here for people to play games. But those are definitely some of I find this is probably the biggest challenges that I find, like logistically, those are the biggest ones, probably, in my eyes. They sound so small, but when you're there in the moment, you're just like, I have no idea what to do. We don't have a scissors, rubber bands. Where's the consoles at? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have a feeling like something so small as not being able to open a box is a big deal, because you're wasting time and everything's running a schedule and you're running behind, and every time I have bought a pair of scissors, I'm like, what if I didn't own scissors to open this? How would I open this?
We have to get creative. Like, my keys came out of my bag, and I'm just like, okay,
keys are always the go-to
on the planet. Right? You're just like trying to open these boxes. But then you'll have like a production crew person come through and be like, do you need like a Stanley knife? And I was like, yes, please. Oh my goodness. Thank you. So
sounds like everyone needs a Swiss Army knife or something.
Just like on your keychain. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Jessie, I'm not quite sure if you've been involved in planning an event or maybe hosting a community event or something like that. Maybe you could give us some insight into some of your experiences.
Not really within the gaming space, to be honest with you. I mean, I've had to be involved in a lot of events and stuff just for work things. And something I actually did want to, I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent or going back to what Kim was saying. Having worked with Bethesda for as long as I have, I feel like Bethesda are one of those companies here in Australia that runs some of the best, not only just events in general, but they tend to focus a lot more on the community than a lot of other, say, publishers or, PR agencies that might run gaming events. 90% of the things that I've been to for Bethesda over the years has been not just like, industry and content creators, but also just, their dedicated kind of Bethesda community. They're really good at supporting the Bethesda community as well, which I think is like incredible. There's a bunch of the cosplayers that I actually, for the first time in my entire career, did cosplay last year. I did like Fallout cosplay, and
you looked fantastic. Honestly, if any of you haven't seen her Fallout cosplay, she was impeccable. The detail on that costume was amazing. It looked like she was a professional cosplayer.
Yeah, look, just to let you know, I bought every element of that, except that my pet toy was actually part of my that midnight collector's edition that I picked up for Fallout 4. So I had the Pip-Boy and stuff already. But yeah, I just thought, well, it's the first one back in ages. I want to do cosplay. And it was one of the communities, like members from Bethesda that does a lot of the cosplay there and tends to be at a lot of their events, who suggested, why don't you just do like a Fallout like vault suit, because it's a really easy thing to just buy. And that was a great suggestion. But like seeing this huge community, but then also seeing like Bethesda staff there genuinely like supporting what they were doing, getting to go to these events and not only just seeing like my industry friends or some of my other like friends that are streamers or like YouTubers, but getting to see some of the community also at those events. Yeah, Kim, you guys do an incredible job. And they are like one of the best teams that sorry, I'm not just trying to like to embarrass you for a second now, but like, even like before Kim turned up, but every time they've hired somebody new, they've always been amazing and fit into that team so well. So yeah, you guys do such a good job, and you run some of the best events, I think, in the industry, and not only just because of the caliber of the events, but the fact that you include everybody. I know you do some of the stuff at PAX, but then you had the Redfall event a little like not long ago as well. And yeah, again, they do such a good job of that. And I'm lucky I get to go to a lot of them because of what I do for work stuff, which is great. And yeah, I haven't really had to run any myself. I just get to go and enjoy the events like the ones that Kim puts together. And clearly we don't get to see all of the stress and all of the kind of, panic prior to said event. But you wouldn't know when you go there because they're just so well put together.
No, I couldn't tell at the Xbox FanFest event because everyone was walking so fast. Everyone was blurs, like like walking everywhere, like arranging the viewing and all the things there. And I was just like, okay, well, no one's chatting. This is okay. They're very busy. But that was sensational. But I do wonder, has anyone been to an event where something, without naming names, obviously, where things were less than ideal or you were told something and it wasn't exactly what they promised? Oh, Jessie's got some. She's got some tea. She's got some tea.
Yeah. I have worked. I actually had to go to an event early on in my career in this industry, and it's so hard to say this without it being really obvious who and what I'm talking about. But the job that I was supposed to be doing was not what ended up kind of happening, and it was like, it's one of those things where I think as a creator you've got to learn to know what your worth is, and like when a company or a brand is taking advantage of you. And I think because it was so early on in my career, and one of the things that I've realized is that it doesn't seem like 8 years ago is that long, but there wasn't a lot of regulation when it came to what streamers or YouTubers or content creators got paid for whatever work it was they were doing. And I was basically doing the job of somebody who would have been sent over there from like a like IGN or something, like some sort of like an actual journalist. And I didn't get paid for it at all, but I ended up doing about 10 times more work than one of the guys from IGN that I actually spoke to. And it was, it kind of very much ruined my experience of that event. And I got to travel overseas for it as well, which, was very exciting for me at the time. But then also it just turned out to be like one of the worst experiences of my life in this industry. Without saying, I really can't say much else. I know there's probably some of the guys in the chat that know exactly what I'm talking about because I have spoken about it before, but without throwing anyone under the bus.
Well, I don't. So that could be anyone. But you know what? That really does lend into, and we're probably going on a little bit of a side topic here, which happens. I will say that, people are so enthusiastic to go to these events, to get invited to parties and, to be at these really exclusive events. Now, I can imagine that anyone in their early career, just like Jessie, it's happened to me before. I'm sure Ellie's been like, oh, why did I do that? Quite simply because you don't know your worth and you're not 100% sure what's good and how to go about things. So I don't know, maybe Kim can maybe give some advice to people who are maybe new to the space and do want to get into this part of the industry.
Yeah, and look, I did a tweet about something similar because we had a lot of people
yes, I saw that
Starfield codes and what they need to do. And one of the things that I put down was, I having never been on the content creator influencer side of things, I can't imagine how hard it is. But for me, I'm always just like, tell me what you want. Tell me exactly what you want. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I don't want to upset anybody. Like, that's never my goal. And I joke about it in the office, but I'm so dead serious when I say it's like, I don't ever want to end up being like, tweeted about being like, this person offered me $20 to talk about this, and then people I'm like, I don't want that to ever be me. Like, I'm just like, if somebody says to me that's not my rate, or I actually charge more than, I'm like, okay, cool, let's have a chat, like let's see what we can do. Because at the end, I do want it to be, it's a relationship, it's a partnership, and yes, to an extent it's a business deal, right? I totally get that. So when people are like, oh, I had people messaging me about stuff being like, oh, I just want any opportunity. I was like, okay, be more detailed for me. Like, are you looking at sponsorship? Do you just want to come to our events? Do you, are you looking for goodies? Would you like to do unboxing videos? Be so specific. Because you're never going to upset us. You're never going to hurt a community manager's feelings by being honest and being open with what you want and, your expectations. And I'm usually quite happy to accommodate most of those. And even in instances where, something that you've said, it's like, oh, I want to do this. And it's like, okay, well, I don't have capacity for it. Or, you know, something that always like is very business and hinders budget. I don't have the budget for it. It's kind of like, doesn't mean I'm not going to work with you in the future. Doesn't mean I can't send you a code. Doesn't mean I can't send you a goodie bag. But then I have no expectations for what you do with that. It's like, I'm not paying you, so you don't have to post it, but I'm still going to send you something. It's like, I don't have any expectations on that. And that's something that I find in my journey through both Ubisoft and Bethesda is something that's super important. It's like, if I send you something, you don't have to do anything with you. There's no expectation on it. And it's like, because I'm not paying you for it. You know, it's just, if you want it, it's some cool merch. If you post about it, awesome. I'm glad you're happy with it. But yeah, I think being honest as possible with the person that you're kind of having negotiations with. And I can imagine that's super scary for especially for newcomers to be like, hey, I actually don't know my worth. I want X amount of dollars. And then being like, oh my God, am I asking for too much? Are they going to knock me back and I'm never going to work with them again? Don't just ask us, just tell us what you're, you know, because it's your brand, it's your future, it's your livelihood. We'll work around it, or we'll find a way to partner with you guys. That's definitely something I'm super open and honest about. And again, if we never reach like an agreement or we can't find something, it never doesn't mean that we'll never work together again. It's like, okay, next opportunity, let's see what we can do next time. But yeah, don't be scared. We're not precious. I don't get hurt. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, another one's to sound bad. It's technically not my money. It's Bethesda's money, and I have to be smart with it and I have to figure out how to use it. But if you say like, you know, oh, I don't want to work with it, it's like, that's okay. I'm okay with that. Like, we'll find something else. Like, we'll make something work. So yeah, we don't get offended and don't be scared, because like, we're just normal people too. Like, at the end of the day, I saw someone post in the chat like, but it's like, we're talking to the corporation. I was like, no, you're just talking to Kim. You're just talking to Adele.
Yeah.
You're just talking to okay. Like, yeah. Yes, we represent, but you can have a genuine conversation with us and it's not gonna backfire. It's not gonna be bad. So that's,
I want to ask a question, and I want to bring it back to gaming events. But this is how I imagine the scenario goes, because I really wanted to go to the Diablo event. I'm not big enough to go to the Diablo event, but I really wanted to see a cosplay Lilith. But I'm sure I'll see one at PAX. And yeah, but I didn't get to go. I don't live in Sydney or Melbourne. It's fine. I'm not precious about that. I'm a bit salty about it, but whatever. That was my choice. So I'm imagining that when you decide, okay, we're going to invite these people, do you have like a big like whiteboard where you have like everyone's faces, like their profile pictures, and then you pick which one that people like, how do you come to the decision of who you invite?
That is super hard, because a lot of the time when we're doing, like, for instance, like the Redfall event or Worlds of Bethesda, I'll use as like an example.
Yep.
Venues have capacity. So you'll get to a venue and they're like, you can own, like, Worlds of Bethesda was a tricky one because it was an actual, sorry, my screen just went black. It was an actual licensed venue. And they're like, so, you know, legally we can only have X amount of people in here. And it's like, okay, how much of that space do we dedicate to our community? So people who don't have to pay, they just register online. How many people do we invite from the community, or how many tickets do we have open for community? And then how many people like do we invite, like, for, you know, from our community, from the people that we've worked with, our content creators, our influencers, you know, people we have good relationships with? Do we invite other industry friends, like people from, you know, like peripheral partners, that kind of thing? So that is kind of, I guess, the first part where we have to figure out what our capacity is. And then we go and we're like, okay, for me, I'm like, who have I worked with that I know absolutely loves Bethesda, is going to have a hoot of a time here, who's going to know what's happening? They're the people I invite first. And then I look, okay, who's people who have showed interest in Bethesda but have never played a game of Bethesda's before? I'm never going to just exclude those people. It's like, okay, let's give these people, let's show them what Bethesda does. Like, we do cool events. We have like a really cool dedicated community. And most of the time our community is super welcoming. Like, I say that because everyone's like, really? Is it? I'm like, no, it's true. Like, I find that some communities you feel a little bit like tense going in, but I find that the Bethesda community is actually pretty welcoming. So it's like, okay, people who have never played a Bethesda game before but are like, oh, I'm so pumped for Starfield, like, I'm super excited. It's like, okay, come along, I'll show you guys what we do. And like, you can see. So there are definitely like lists that we have to go through, But it's also on us to be like the best judges of who's actually going to get something out of coming to this event. So are you going to have a good time? Are your other friends there that you can talk with so we can all have a bigger conversation? Are there new people that I want to meet that I think this would be the best time for them to have where I can showcase what we do in the community? But yeah, there's definitely lists, but a lot of it is left up to the community managers to decide, like, you know, who do we think is going to enjoy the event? Who do we think is going to be most happy to be there, and not just, and this is a big one for me, who's there just to, you know, like have a drink. And that's totally fine again, because I mean,
that's definitely a small part of it for me.
Just to have a chill time, yeah.
Have a chill time, but then it's like, you know, have a drink, but then still talk to the community, still engage and have a good time. But yeah, like I have to consider a lot more facets of it. Otherwise, people are like, did you invite this person who came in, didn't say hello to anyone, didn't have a good time, and then just left? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't get a chance to say hello to everybody. And it's like, okay, you just need to be more mindful and make sure that everyone's getting something out of it, including having a good time and maybe even just a hello. So that's something that, I definitely have to consider.
I was absolutely ecstatic when because I went to the Bethesda party over the PAX weekend, and I got there and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, why are you so dressed up? To myself. I went to the mirror in the bathroom and I said, why are you so dressed up? Because I had no idea. This was the first one that I've ever been to, and I was like, I was wearing a sparkly dress. But do you know who else was wearing a sparkly dress?
Adele.
Adele from Bethesda. She was wearing one as well. Thank goodness, because she came over to me and she was like, hello, oh my gosh, you're Doomcutie, oh my God. And it was just like this big thing, and it was so nice. So yeah, definitely, if you do get the opportunity to attend one of these events, it is just sensational just to see people being people. PAX is huge, but there are lots of those little events around, like hosted by, like, for example, like Gigi Easy Bar in Melbourne. Like people will have like different parties and stuff outside of the event as well. So definitely, if you are going to these events, check those out as well, because honestly, I got to talk to so many people that I wouldn't have got the opportunity to see on the PAX floor or at a massive event. So yeah, that was fantastic. So yeah, definitely check one of those out if you do get the opportunity.
That's definitely one of Adele's memories. She's like, Kim, Doomcutie was like, what should I wear? A sparkly dress. And I was like, did you respond? She's like, oh, I didn't respond. And then you get to the party, sparkly dress. She's like, Kim, we're both wearing sparkly dresses. She's like, you should have worn one. I was like, I know, all right. I didn't remember clearly. So I do remember that moment. Adele was so happy that she was wearing a sparkly dress. But just so you know, because she was like, yes. She's like, am I overdressed? Because I was wearing like jeans and a t-shirt. And I was like,
yeah, some people were. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's, maybe we can talk a little bit about like what should you wear, like what should you bring? Like I know that for myself, I was very, very unsure about how dressed up some of these events are, plus then having, comfortable clothes during the day. What would we say is like the number one things that a person should bring if they are going to attend one of these events?
Definitely comfortable shoes. Like,
oh, for sure.
That was my
especially
thought.
if you're on your feet all day. And then if you go out later, you can dress up if you want. I think that's the best part, is that some people do and some people just go in the stuff they've been in all day. I like to have a slightly nicer outfit for going to some of the events in the evenings. But then there's also some of those days where I've just had such a long day at the convention and I really can't be bothered. So I might change my shirt, but I will still just wear like my Jordans and a pair of jeans and go just in comfortable clothes. And you can do that as well, which I think is really nice.
Absolutely. Or you can wear a sparkly dress.
Yeah, exactly. You can wear
sparkly dress with comfortable shoes.
Yeah, you looked gorgeous.
I was so nervous, I tell you. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I had no idea. But yeah, luckily I had a number of beverages before I got into Adele's presence. So I was a little bit more calm then. Ellie, what was one thing that you wish you would have brought with you to PAX? I know you are like in Melbourne already, so you could have just gone home. But like, what would you say is like something you wish you had?
Oh, I think because it's such a long day, I think like I'm a bit of a over preparer. I think I'll preface it with that. And I just had a little backpack, and in there I had like a little water, a little energy drink, Band-Aids, because I had never been before. And I was like, I know the Melbourne Exhibition Centre is ginormous. So I was like, it's either going to be in like one little area or it's going to span. I thought it was going to be in a couple areas, not like the whole thing. So
the entire convention centre, right?
Yes,
the entire place.
New shoes. I was wearing new shoes. So I was like,
oh no.
But do you know what?
Okay, that's a no.
There were sneakers though, and I broke them in, and honestly, it was so good. Like, it was amazing. And it could have gone really bad. Like, that's why I didn't wear my Docs, because, you know, Doc Martens are never a good idea. But I was super comfy.
Not unless they're like 4 years old and you've completely broken them in. Yeah.
Really
yes. Oh yeah. Well, that's it. Do we ever break them in? Who knows? And the only thing I probably would have said is a few more snacks, because I get a bit funny about, you know, convention prices when it's like, you know, 10, 15 bucks for a thing of chips. So snacks, I think survival, just pack for survival, snacks and water. And then I think I would have packed more snacks.
Honestly, that's something I learned as I go for a little supermarket run the day I get there. And I buy a bunch of snacks, not only for just my hotel room, so I've just got stuff I can come home and eat, but stuff I can also take with me during the day. Because, yeah, the food that's even at the convention centre is not only expensive, but sometimes not great options. And there's not a lot, even if you walk around. Like, you can go to the pub and have like a meal there, but if you just want something to just have lunch and come back or whatever it is, I tend to just buy like a couple of sandwiches or something that I can sort of take around with me for the day. Because, yeah, you don't realize how hungry you get either when you're on your feet and you're just walking around constantly. It's very tiring. And those like Dagwood dogs or whatever the weird like convention is not really my thing. Hey,
it looks like some people really enthuse and love that kind of food. Don't get me wrong. And you know what? If you can afford it, sure. But like, honestly, I also don't want to wait in a line for half an hour for some chips. But that's another thing as well. So what have we got so far? We've got comfortable shoes, water, and if you're a snack kind of person.
Because it gets really warm in there, doesn't it? And it can be like chilly outside. So it's like you want to at least be wearing a t-shirt or something cooler underneath your jackets and things. Because it gets really, really hot in there just from obviously the amount of people. But I reckon they have a bit of a heating moment on as well.
Yeah, Melbourne weather's also weird, so
strange.
To say the least.
I went to Melbourne and it was
people
fine.
were like Melbourne weather,
4 seasons in a day.
Yeah,
I don't get it, guys. I've been there 4 times now, and I've experienced Sydney weather and WA weather, and it was fine. Totally fine.
No. Every time I've gone to Melbourne, it's been like so hot, and then I'll round the corner, it starts torrential raining, and I'm like, what just happened? And then I run in, buy an umbrella. This legitimately happened. I bought an umbrella, came back out, and it stopped raining, and my partner looked at me, and I looked at him, and I was just like, well, we'll just have to carry it now. Sweating, and then it's raining, and I was like, it's strange weather. So
oh gosh, there was something I was going to say. Now it's gone. Oh, Jessie, you obviously wore a cosplay for the first time last year. Do you have any suggestions for people who are wearing cosplay, like navigating that, how to, maintain your costume, that kind of thing? What kinds of advice do you have for people?
Look, I think I was lucky that what I had was pretty easy to kind of manage and get around in. It was literally a vault suit, but it came in 2 pieces, so it was really comfortable. It was like wearing kind of leggings,
like active wear.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, basically. I think the most complicated stuff I had was like I had a belt and I had like my dog meat plushie attached to that, and like I bought like little Nuka-Cola caps that I had in all my pockets that I was handing out to people. And it was more the stuff that was kind of attached to the rest of the outfit that was a little bit more to manage. But I think I was lucky that it didn't take a lot in terms of, I didn't have to wear makeup. It was something that I kind of thought, especially with my hair being how it is, was like, unless I wear a wig, which I kind of didn't really feel like having, I didn't want to have to do that. Vault suit was easy because it's like I can look however I want. And it's just the vault suit that's important, not like what color my hair is or like having to wear makeup or anything. So like that was actually, I think I just picked a really good outfit that didn't take a lot of managing, or, you know, it was easy for me to walk around, and I knew I'd be on my feet all day because I was there for work stuff as well. I think my mistake was going to the first PAX in 3 years, not only just like knowing I was going to be there for work, and it's one of the places where a lot of my community ends up being. So I get to sort of see a lot of the guys that don't live in Sydney, and that, you know, I spend my entire year sitting on Twitch and talking to them through chat, and then they'll all come to PAX and I get to kind of catch up with them all. But I also chose to wear cosplay. So I had not only people coming up wanting to talk to me because they knew me from, you know, streams and whatever. I had people coming up to me who had no idea who I was, that were just like, your outfit's really cool. Can I get a photo? And I honestly think that is why I lost my voice before the end of the first day. It was just so many people that no one had had a chance to catch up with each other. And then I also added the cosplay into that. And I actually think, as much as I loved it and it was fun, I think it was a terrible decision to do it on the first back, because I had no voice for the entirety of the weekend.
Oh my goodness.
It's actually like, I wish I could do more cosplay. I'm just terrible at making outfits. So I actually don't know if I'm the person that you should be asking about like cosplay like etiquette, because I
just thought maybe there was something,
the easiest outfit that I could wear or 3 days. I actually wore it all 3 days. I had like boots, like pretty comfortable boots that, you know, for standing around for, you know, entire days at a time in the cosplay outfit, it was really, really easy. So I think that's something I've learned. If I'm going to do cosplay again somewhere like PAX, that I know it's going to be 3 full days, I'm probably going to be there doing other work as well. So I need to be, you know, there the whole day and walking around. It's going to have to be something comfortable like that, because I see some of the like cosplayers that I know and some of the elaborate, like incredible outfits that they make, and it just blows my mind that they can spend that long in those outfits on their feet. And yeah, some of the guys do like the full 3D printed like Halo outfits, for example. And like, man, that would get so hot in those. And I'm really bad at that sort of, I don't think I could do that for very long. So, you know, yeah, impressive, but definitely not my vibe. I think Vault Suit was a good option for that reason.
Ellie, have you ever cosplayed at an event before, or has it ever interested you at all?
It's funny because I'm a massively crafty person. Everything I DIY, I love sewing, I love crocheting, hot glue guns. Like, I love crafts. But I'm also like terrified of people. So like, if I was to make something and people are like, can I have a photo? I'm like, ugh. So it's
Please
like
go
a
away.
double-edged sword. Yeah, it's like I would love to do it because it's fun. I would love to do it because it's connecting with a lot of people. But I would just be so shy. And if people were talking to me that I didn't know, I would just be so awkward. So I would like to think I will get up the courage one day. But for now, I think I just admire everybody else's effort and enjoy them doing it rather than me.
Look, if it makes you feel any better, a lot of the cosplayers I know are actually massive introverts. But I think there's something about being in an outfit or a costume and not necessarily being yourself that sometimes makes it that little bit easier for them. Is that, people will come up and talk to you when they want photos, but they're not necessarily asking you personal questions or anything. It's entirely about like them appreciating either the character you are or the effort you've put into your costume.
Exactly.
And it's sort of very much a, can I get a photo? Cool, bye. And then they just like leave you alone. So it kind of,
a revolving
in that
door
way can sometimes be a bit easier.
So just put a helmet on. You don't have to smile.
That's the other thing. I think the small thing I would do would be do a cosplay that's just a normal clothes, if that makes sense. So like maybe a character that I really like off Fortnite or a couple of other horror games that I play, just normal costume, so I kind of know. But if somebody else knew the niche reference, then it'd be cool to connect in that way. Maybe like dip my toes in that and be like, you train me not to be awkward. and then we'll go from there.
I think the cosplay that works aside a lot of these gaming events is just sensational, and I love seeing my game characters come to life, and like imagining it like, you know, like the tall Spartans, and just it's just so magical. I remember last PAX I was actually walking from my hotel to the convention center, and I'm just walking next to Master Chief. I'm just like,
I love that, right? There's just like PAX weekend is just all these people walking around the city, and it's like some of them, okay, you wouldn't know they were going to PAX, but some of them you definitely know they're going to PAX because, yeah, you're in like full costumes. And I love that. I love seeing people do that, and they just could not care less. And then there's always those people in the streets that clearly are not at all involved in or have any idea about the industry or community at all. And it's like, yeah, because there's so many of them, and I feel like we literally take over that city. Nobody cares. None of us care. It's sort of like, I know I'm not the only one walking around in like a full outfit, so it makes me feel a lot more comfortable
and
being
all the
able to do
trams
that and just not caring
people.
what people think, right?
Yeah, the trams are just full of people holding on to like cardboard weapons and things. And old people are just kind of giving them look, and they're like, "Hey,
hi, do you want a photo?" Oh my goodness. What are some, Kim, have you seen like, what's like the best like Bethesda cosplay you've seen recently, like at an event?
Oh, so Adele and I recently went to Supernova, which was like
a
couple of weeks ago.
That's really big with cosplay, hey? Like,
it's massive. And like it's really funny. So we went there and we're like, and we knew that the Fallout cosplay community was going to be there.
Yeah.
And every time they just show up. Yeah, we went and we're just like, and we Adele organized like a photographer to come along, and we took some awesome shots and like, you know, got to actually chat with so many people in the community. And it's always like mind blowing. I'm just like, I should have just cosplayed. I said to Adele, I feel bad. We're the community managers and we're not dressed up, like disappointed in us. But hey, look, it's that cosplay guy was like, oh, you guys should do something easy. Yeah,
he's like, great. He's the one that told me to go as do the vault suit thing. He's so lovely. Yeah,
that's what he
very
said to Adele,
welcoming
like,
community.
He is so welcome. And so he was like, you guys should just do something really simple. And I was like, yeah, I know. We should definitely do something simple. But honestly, amazing community there as well. And prior to that, the Assassin's Creed cosplay community was freaking awesome. Like, I think it's the Assassin's Creed Guild in Australia, run by some amazing people as well. And I got to do a couple of cosplay meetups with them. And the cosplays are they're always like outstanding. And I'm like, how did you make that? And they're like, oh, you know, it's just foam. And I'm like, foam? It looks like metal. And they're like, well, Kim, it's just the way that it's been sprayed. And I'm like, no skill. I could never do that. But yeah, I find that, the Fallout community and the AC community for cosplaying for me was just absolutely incredible. They really show up and they've just got all the gear and it just looks so authentic. Like it's straight, like pull them straight from the game and bring them into the real world. I'm like, you guys look awesome. So yeah, two of the greatest communities for sure.
There's some real talent in this community. Like this, it goes beyond, you know, the zeros and ones on our screens. Like people are so passionate about it, and I think it's so important for these kinds of events, whether it be small cosplay meetups or, you know, big events like PAX, like to be a part of those communities and connect is just fantastic. And I love seeing other people do it. As I can't do it as much because I do live rurally. I live about nearly 3 hours out of Perth, so I don't get to do it as much. So I mean, that's why I'm on a podcast, right? I get to talk here. But yeah, so I think the fact that these kinds of events did, you know, they did keep going through, you know, issues with COVID, not, you know, hosting in-person events. Like I really hope that means that there'll still be in-person events and we won't move into just online events, because I know that now there's I suppose now there's an extra layer of, okay, so we can produce this event through the internet, and we can, you know, like BlizzCon, for example, people can attend the event, but you can buy a ticket to BlizzCon and watch it online. Like, is that something that you think the industry will move more towards to?
Is one of the ones that, and I mean, you may make this connection, and now I'm saying it, you probably will. I did maybe for 2 years in a row, it would have been sort of 2015 2015 and 2016, I think. I actually went to E3 with Xbox and did sort of like hosting for them over there. I had won a competition the first year and went over there and with somebody else and did like a bunch of interviews with like a lot of the game developers and stuff, and then went with them the following year just on my own. They just asked me to go for the second time. And that used to be huge. And then, you know, we had like the in-person, there was the in-person event, obviously, but then they would showcase, do all the showcases online anyway, so you could watch those at home. The second that COVID hit, obviously E3 wasn't happening anymore. And I think I already kind of knew that this was going to happen. And obviously, like I'm sure you guys know that a few months ago, they kind of called it off completely for this year.
Yeah, they did.
They're just doing the digital version of it now. And I think it is just that with something like E3, which isn't necessarily as community driven in that sense, I think a lot of publishers and brands just realized they can get the same exposure and have the same like impact just doing in-house digital events rather than having to do the physical setup at E3, which is a shame. But I think that that's not necessarily going to be impacting things like PAX, for example, because that PAX kind of exists for a very different reason to something like E3. I think TwitchCon as well is another one that I've personally never been to, but it's so community driven that, there's sort of a reason for them to be there in person. And I don't think it's, the same reasons why E3 isn't running anymore would impact a lot of those kinds of more community driven events in particular. It's like, it is a shame, but I think the E3 thing was probably coming eventually, and COVID sort of just pushed that along a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know about BlizzCon in particular, but I can imagine that that's also probably still very community focused, in that, it's the one event they do and like a lot of the community kind of goes there. I'd be really surprised if they completely pulled something like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Kim, do you have anything to say about this? Obviously you're a little bit new to your role, your current role, but have you seen a massive change or?
We saw some changes, obviously, and it was right when I started at Bethesda, because I started just as COVID hit, which was really massive, big learning curve for me. The move to digital events for something like QuakeCon, which had in the States, and for QuakeCon, there's PCs everywhere, there's hands, there's people all together in in a small area. So that obviously went online. But I definitely agree with what Jessie was saying. It's like, it's not something like, even if we do digital events, it's not something that, for instance, like in Australia, I'm speaking on behalf of Bethesda ANZ here, it's not something we would not stop doing physical in-person events. I advocate, and along with Adele, the community team, we think that in-person events are super important because it's a much clearer, touch point that we have with the community. And it's a good place to actually talk to people, not just like through like a Twitter or a tweet or like a message inbox or an email, which is totally different. I can't hear tone. I can't see your face. I've never met you. There is nothing that I think can replace an in-person event. And I also think it depends on the goals of the company and what they're trying to do. Like an E3 or an EB Expo back in the day was definitely about selling the game. Like, here's your hands-on gameplay. Here's all of the, here's how much it costs, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas like a community event like PAX is like, hey, I'm Kim. Like, I'm here to meet you. Tell me what you love. Like, let's do some cool stuff together. Here's some fun stuff that we've thrown together. Oh, you want to get hands on the game? Yeah, we've got some pods down the back, but let's chat. Like, it's definitely more. It depends what the goal of the company is. And obviously as a community team person, I'm always like, yeah, I want to do more community stuff. I want to talk to people, because like, that's where I have the most fun in my job, is like talking to people, having cool events, which is, it's the fun part. But then there's the sales part, which I totally understand as well, but not my wheelhouse. So those kind of things I think will still happen. But I also think in-person events will also still happen.
Awesome. I think taking away the relationship between the in-person events and the studios is I think there will always be a space for that. There will always be a space for people to connect IRL with their game community, and I think it's so important. And you know, it's people like Kim, you know, it's content creators like Jessie, Ellie, myself, you know. Hello, the cat would like to say something.
I have a comment to make.
Sorry, yeah, no, he's trying to steal my like leftovers from breakfast.
Oh, that's
okay.
There always will be a place, because at the end of the day, humans are social creatures. You might be, you know, introverted, but I think everyone likes to not feel alone in their gaming, and we're always seeking connection. So it's really awesome stuff. Does anyone else have anything they would like to talk about? Oh gosh,
I mean, I could talk for another 3 hours, but I'd rather stick to the topic.
No, I'm just really talked out this morning. Okay. What? Ellie?
Yes, that is me.
Do you have a question for Jessie and Kim?
Yeah, I would just say for Kim, how did you kind of slip into a gaming career? Because I feel that it's really, I mean, it's probably like every industry, but it seems like it's really tricky to kind of get into, especially if you're not more of like the art side, like graphic design, those sorts of things. If you're looking more into like your role within gaming, how did you kind of stepstone to where you are now?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So there was a lot of things. So upon finding out at the end of my university degree, so I did a Bachelor of Business, and I majored in marketing and HR, and I absolutely hated HR because it scared me. So I was like, okay, let's do marketing. And at the time I'd found out that there was a Ubisoft office in Australia, and I was like, okay, that's my goal. Like, I know they've got, I didn't even know Bethesda had an office. I didn't know that Nintendo was in Melbourne. I had no idea. All I knew was I found out that so Ubisoft had an office. So I was like, okay, I'll go for that. And I kind of started really small. So I did a lot of internships at companies totally not related to gaming, but I was working in the tech and how did I explain this? Like, I worked for Apple at one point. I worked for a B2B place that sold telephones and Wi-Fi routers, which was just like so not related to gaming at all. But during that time, it's tech, right? But I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to sell a phone like this. But at the time, I was also like, I had a lot of free time on my hands because I was doing that full time. But then I had my weekends, and I was my first full-time job. And I was like, okay, so I started a website for gaming, like, and it's called Girls That Game. And I started it, and I was like, this is just going to be my stepping stone. It was just like a little Facebook page, and I didn't know how to do marketing properly at the time. I invested like $200 of my own to do some Facebook marketing that I'd never tried before. And then I got like an EB media pass, and I was just like, sorry, my screen went blank. I got an EB media pass, and I got to interview a dev working on Batman at EB Game, and I had no
That's
followers.
Huge.
I know. I had no followers. Like I had a couple of people on my Facebook page because I put some money behind it, but I had started this really small community, got given big opportunities back in the day because that was just available. And I know how hard that is now to get opportunities with devs. But back then I was just like, I got an interview with, a dev working on Batman and also a dev working on Dying Light from Techland. And I was just like, what is happening? And that was real. And that kind of kickstarted me. I was like, this is interesting. And then I applied to be a PAX enforcer and all of this was like unpaid work. It was just passion projects that I'd kind of put myself into because I was like, okay, I've got to start somewhere. And it's regardless of how small it was and how I didn't have any followers or anybody in the space. I was just like, I'm just going to start small. And I did a PAX enforcer role. And then I saw a job at Ubisoft pop up, and it was like, and I remember reading the job description that said, oh, you have to have a minimum of 2 years or 3 years experience in, I guess, like in the marketing space. And I was like, I'm just out of uni. I've had a year and a half. And I was like, I don't fit the requirements for it, but I think I'm passionate enough that I can probably try. And I did try, and they definitely looked and they're like, okay, you've only got 1.5 years experience in marketing. Like, why should we hire you as a, I think at the time it was like a marketing assistant role at Ubisoft. And I was like, oh, because I'm passionate about the industry. I know about games. And I was just like trying to be super confident. And somehow that worked. And I remember being so they were like, yeah, like you don't have the experience that we like, the full breadth of the experience that we need, but you're passionate, you understand games, you can code a console. And I was just like, yeah, I can do that. And that's how I got in it. But I think if I had been scared off by the job description, I probably wouldn't have gone for the role, because I was like 2 to 3 years experience for an assistant role. Surely I can like squeeze my way in there with just my 1.5 years experience out of uni. But I definitely think having like the passion, and also, yes, like a little bit of the education piece certainly helped my position. I don't deny that probably helped me quite a lot. But definitely my passion in the industry and understanding where like Ubisoft sat at the industry at the time. It was just when Assassin's Creed Unity had come out the year before, and everyone was pissed. And I was like, okay, I'm coming into the industry, the industry that I want to work in, at a time when Ubisoft was pretty turbulent, because everyone's like, oh my God, did you see Unity? Like their faces weren't attached to their bodies. And I was just like, okay, so what is like, okay, you're starting on Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So you've got a lot of work to do. And I was just like, whoa. So it was and I felt definitely like, not so much imposter syndrome, but I was very much like, this is huge. Like I have to prove to the community that Assassin's Creed Syndicate is a good game after Unity launched, which people were really unhappy with. But that's kind of like stepping stones were a lot of unpaid stuff that I did just for passion projects to kind of get me more aware of the industry, my degree, which certainly helped in the marketing side, and then just taking a really big leap. Oh, no pun intended, leap of faith into Ubisoft, like, going for the job interview, even though, the requirements I didn't meet. I think that was
of course
my journey.
So one of the bigger lessons, I suppose, to take from that is definitely just go for it, I suppose, like, because a lot of companies these days do request, sometimes upwards of 5 years experience, and a lot of people don't get to have that because some of the roles are quite few and far between. So just going for it, because, with that, like what happened with you with the interviews, they might go, yep, you're showing all the potential that we could possibly want. And then you kind of get that opportunity. And you would kind of see the same with that, Jessie, is doing a lot of unpaid work with streaming, because you've got to start from the bottom to kind of get to the top. And what was your experience with kind of growing to then get to the partnership?
It's really hard, because when I was doing it, it was a very different landscape. Even just only 8 years ago, I started it, funnily enough, Kim, very similar sort of name to you. I actually tried to get into this industry. I came from an acting background, and I didn't not love acting. I ended up doing some presenting stuff at afters, and I really enjoyed that. And I thought maybe I can kind of just get into the gaming industry, trying to do some of that stuff. So I started a website called, and like everything fell under like Geek and Gamer Girl, and it was like writing articles, and I did YouTube stuff, I did Twitch stuff, and Twitch just happened to kind of take off a lot quicker than everything else. And I think I just really enjoyed having that interaction with my community one-on-one. And it's very much partly a, skill-based thing and how good you are at streaming, but it's also very much luck as well. I don't care what anyone says. There's a lot of things like that. Acting is exactly the same. It's a lot of luck. But I just happened to pick the right game at the right time. I was playing like OG Destiny. I was one of the top 5 to 10 people in the entire directory on Twitch. There weren't a lot of Aussie streamers either. I needed a lot more viewers than you do now to get partnership as well. I think it was 350 concurrent viewers, which at the time was not as hard. And I was partnered within 6 months, man, which is like insane.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's extreme. Yeah.
The funny thing is now, if like the landscape is just so different, things have changed so much. It's quite a saturated platform, and like discoverability and a lot of the things that Twitch has changed has kind of really impacted that. But I think I was just lucky that I picked a good time to start. I picked the right game for the platform. I got that partnership, which look, I don't even get 350 concurrent viewers now. So, I mean, that's not the requirements now either. But yeah, it's hard because stuff has changed so much. Even just getting paid for jobs at all was really inconsistent back when I started, whereas now there is a lot more kind of regulation in the sense that, you know, there's a few management agencies, like that's becoming more of a thing where there is a bit more of a standard to, you know, what a creator should be getting paid for things depending on like what their, you know, viewer base is like, or what their general statistics are like. And I didn't really have that back then. So like there would be, I mean, I didn't get paid for any of the Xbox stuff that I did for E3. Like I won the competition the first year and got sent over and I had to do so much work. It was like insane. And then I went the second year, didn't get paid for that either. And then they were getting me to do streams and stuff whilst I was back in Sydney. And the second I asked to get paid, they stopped getting me to do work anymore. But
Very
like,
sad.
I think they wouldn't be able to get away with that now, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, someone on Twitter would go on about it and it would go viral. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like I think there is still a level of like kind of just going back to what Kim was talking about before, where, you know, if you want to work with brands, that's cool. And the best thing to do is to reach out and just talk to them, introduce yourself. A lot of brands that I've found, like a lot of different companies, they have different sort of standards on, you know, what sorts of statistics that they look for in terms of whether they would work, like do paid work with you or not. You might be able to get game codes, but they might not have paid work for you. And sometimes that comes from like a head office that has nothing to do with Australia, which can make that really hard too. The best thing you can do is just ask. Just be like, what do I need to do to be able to get paid work with you? Like, if I can't get paid work with you, is there anything else that, you know, like, can I still get a game code and stream the game because I want to do that? And, you know, that's like was the best thing that I did was just reach out to brands, introduce myself to people. Networking in that respect can be really important. So I'm sort of lucky that I did that really early on because I have some really good relationships with a lot of the publishers and a lot of the brands that I work with. And yeah, like you don't have anything to lose. The worst they can do is say no, or, you know, you don't quite meet this particular requirement, but at least you're getting an answer. You're finding out what it is you need to do and what you need to work towards to be able to get paid work with that particular brand. And like I said, everyone's different. The brands here have different budgets. They have different requirements for like what they look for to work with a creator. So yeah, asking is the best thing you can do. And I'm just lucky that I've been doing it long enough that I kind of know roughly what my rates are for certain things. But then there are certain companies that I'll work with that I love that might not have that budget. And that's okay. I'm happy to still work with them, even if I'm not getting paid as much, because, you know, it's like with Bethesda, like I love working with those guys. And, you know, even if they've got a small budget for something, I would rather still work with them. And that's sometimes also just important to still be getting that work for my sake so I can pay the rent, but also just like because I love their games anyway. And, you know, it's good to have that relationship with them regardless. So, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Did you use the Twitch partner booth at PAX? Because I am only affiliate, and I saw the Twitch
we weren't
partner
allowed
booth,
in.
and I was like, oh, I wish I was.
No, I'm
partnered.
serious.
So
we weren't allowed in.
If it makes you feel any better,
If you
no, that's not. I don't know. I feel like I'm not. Maybe not like a typical like streamer or content creator. I get along with other streamers and stuff, but I don't really like being in what I call the fishbowl, where it's sort of
it was a
you go
fishbowl
in there
though.
and
It was
everybody
literally a clear box.
Yeah, I was gonna say rainbow and
people could see in. I think was how that worked. Yeah,
it was just
that's not really my vibe. I'd rather see people at like the events later on in the day, you know, than hang out in the sort of like exclusive Twitch
in the glass layer.
Yeah,
I just had to put my toe in the door to get my little like goodies pack, and then I left.
Thing,
that was the closest I got to being in there. Yeah,
I did know someone who was. I did know someone who was just friends with someone who was partner, or if they know that you've been featured on the front roll, the front page, if you've been featured on there, sometimes you can schmooze your way into there if that's what you like. It's a great photo for Instagram. Don't get me wrong. You know, the purple's iconic. But I mean, definitely, you probably don't get as much of that genuine connection as you would if you met them organically at an event or at a party.
Yeah. And
like
look,
that.
I mean, I think it's probably a good place for people to go if they want to just escape for a minute. But I feel like for me, it's like I'm only there for the 3 days. And, you know, I'm there to see like my community or, you know, a lot of my industry friends, that it's just nice that everyone's in the one spot together. So I kind of spend more of my time to, I don't know, I don't want to be in the little exclusive booth. To each their own, right? But that's just never really been my vibe, I guess. Let's everyone I know and see my community and
I don't know. It's I'm going to say what you're not going to say because I'm allowed to because I'm this is my podcast. It's a little bit wanky. It's sometimes it comes off really wanky and cringe, and we're real people here, and we're not just about the fame. We're about connection, community. We're about, you know, enthusing about games, not just when it's the reason why we're here is not just for the photos, you know. So I can say what you can't say because this is my podcast.
Okay. Well, now that we're talking, we'll have one little. I'm going to have a little whinge about.
Come on!
Community event that's happening. For anyone that's never been to one before COVID. Twitch, more like somebody else was running it and Twitch was slightly affiliated with it, but they weren't entirely in control of it. There were like community events that were being run in Sydney, I think in Melbourne. I think they possibly did 1 or 2 in Brisbane before COVID hit. But they used to be like open community events. So it was like the Twitch community rather than just people that streamed. Like obviously there were streamers there, both, you know, partners and affiliates and like people that were streaming that were neither, people that were just like part of a Twitch community. And it was so nice just having a place for everybody who was part of that Twitch community in some way or another, being able to just be all together at a, you know, venue and hanging out, and it was lovely. They've been talking about reviving those for a while now, and you know, I've been talking to, funnily enough, people within the community that aren't streamers that are like, I can't wait for the next Twitch meetup. It got announced a couple of weeks ago, and it is for partners only, Twitch partners only. I'm not even allowed a +1, and that's just not really my jam. Like I don't, you know, it's nice meeting other partners and stuff, but you know, I think it's that I like being a part of the Twitch like space in general because, you know, my community is really important to me. I like getting to meet everybody from within that space. I'm not really somebody that likes going to these like partner exclusive things because I think it is a little bit like, I get it's nice to have something for the partners, but it feels like we're excluding everybody else. And I just feel like that's not what Twitch is for me. Like, I don't want to go to somewhere that I can't have even just like, you know, bring a friend or, you know, have any of my community there whatsoever. It's only going to be for Twitch partners. And yeah, it just feels a little bit elitist and weird and
gatekeepy.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed that that's what they've done with it. I'm hoping it's only one. And then because, yeah, I know there are so many people that used to love those events that aren't partners. And I go there for that whole community rather than just the Twitch partners. I mean, you know, I know a bunch of them and they'll be at the events anyway, even if everybody is allowed. So I just don't know why they're kind of making it a partner exclusive thing. It just seems like a waste of an event. And yeah, all that's going to do is just upset all the people that used to go to the old ones that have been waiting for this for years. And yeah, like I kind of don't want to go, but I feel like I also sort of have to just because, you know, I am a Twitch partner. But yeah, just it's kind of ruining that whole community aspect of what these events used to be.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's only the first and last of these exclusive ones, man, because it's a shame.
I can imagine that it is probably from the brand side, and I'm probably Kim can kind of probably lean into this a little bit. The fact that probably this number one, they're probably going to say that the spaces aren't big enough for the amount of people that would come. They're probably also going to say that, you know, the whole theme around the event isn't suitable for all of the community. So do you think that that's their reasoning behind it? Like, that's what they're going to go with?
Well, even the previous ones, it wasn't like there were no like, you know, it was free entry and stuff, but it was at a small bar in Ashfield where you had to pay for all your own drinks and things like that. It was really just that they would maybe have some giveaways or some stuff going on where, you know, but like it's at Fortress. So firstly, they definitely have the space for that. And, you know, even at those kinds of things, it's not like they're going to just be paying for drinks and food for the partners for the entire night either. Like they might have a couple of drink cards going around and maybe that's what they can give to the partners, but I just don't see why they'd have to exclude everybody. Like especially at a venue like Fortress, which is already, you know, they have their own kind of security and they're, you know, it's basically just maybe booking out an area or opening it up to just the Twitch community for a certain amount of time. But I just can't see where the benefit is for them cutting everybody off, and how that really makes sense when the venue is something like Fortress, which is, you know, huge. Like if you've ever been to the one in Melbourne or now the Sydney one's just opened, it seems like a weird decision. And it makes me wonder if it's because Twitch is maybe putting their own money into it this time and it is just easier and, you know, cheaper for them to only have it as like a small amount of people, and the easiest way to do that is to just make it partner exclusive. But I think it just kills the whole reason why those events were so successful in the first place, you know, which was that community element. And like I said, to me, that's what I love about Twitch is that there's so many people that hang out and like not only for the, you know, content creators or the streamers that they're watching, but they all tend to know each other and they all become like make their friends within those different like channels and communities, and to just, it's the only thing that really exists for the community, like when it comes to Twitch in Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane. And yeah, they've kind of just like decided that's not important anymore. So I don't know.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. Yeah, it is a shame.
But that's okay because
considering those tags are made up of viewership, like you have to get those viewers up to be able to get these labels within Twitch. It's interesting now. It's like, okay, well, you've got these from building your own community, but we're going to ignore that and we're going to have our own event. It seems counterproductive for what they're trying to build on their side, if that makes sense.
And I must say it was always one of those things where like I have a couple of friends that I've sort of made through streaming, but for the most part it's, you know, these events are the places where I can meet up with my community. You know, I'm not going to just go and have, which as I'm sure you guys can understand for good reason, like I'm not going to just go and have coffee with my viewers all the time because, you know, it's sort of like slightly inappropriate in some respects. But having these kinds of events is like the perfect place for us to all hang out together. Same with things like PAX, you know, and conventions, but those don't always happen. I find the Twitch events were always just a little bit more intimate. You know, you weren't expected to go and pay to go to a giant convention just to kind of hang out with each other. So they were kind of a nice place to get to see not only all the people I know from Twitch, but a bunch of the guys that I work with in the industry would normally be there. A lot of the guys that were in a lot of the sort of chat and were part of my actual specific Twitch community would turn up and we'd all get to hang out together. And yeah, I think the same way that like I love that Bethesda does a lot of community events, it was a great thing for Twitch as well in Australia. So I just, hoping this is the last one that they do that is partners only, because like I said, it's just not really my thing. It's not the reason I stream on Twitch. It's not why that's such a big focus. It's the community that I've built and like a lot of the people that I meet through Twitch. That is the reason I keep doing it, and I love my job. So, you know, for them to take that one event away that we had is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, no, it is a shame. But like the ones that Kim is on, I mean, you guys work incredibly hard to engage the community outside of these events, and making sure that and it probably is part of the reason why the community of Bethesda games is so welcoming, is because, and I'm probably going to get scolded for saying this, but there's a lot of older gamers in that space. There are people that have been playing Fallout for a really long time. You know, Doom was like the first game I ever played. Since, you know, so it's
grew
like,
up on it, right?
yeah. So it's kind of like we're all kind of old now, so we're going to be like, hey guys, do you want to do this? Like, we feel confident. I mean, definitely more so now than I did when I was a teenager, simply because of the girl factor. But like, you know, I see lots of in community organizations of events more so now, but mostly around these Bethesda titles. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I definitely I think when it comes to like organizing like these types of events, it's something that, and like I'm not taking all the credit for events, because it's definitely a team project for sure. Like Adele, Sophie, Kate, and, you know, our marketing team as well. We have to consider all of those things, and it's like, how big are we going to go with these events? Like, can we invite everybody? Do we do exclusive events? And hearing this feedback as well is like super helpful for me, and reading like some of the comments in chat as well. Like, this is super helpful because there have been times where we've been like, let's just do something really exclusive. It's like, oh, okay, but are we excluding like people who want to get into this brand? It's like, oh yeah, we are. Okay, so what else can we do? Okay, well, we can't have an event which has 1,000 people. It's like, oh, but can we? And then that's when we spark those ideas of doing like bigger events and being more inclusive for, you know, everybody. And trying not to have like too much exclusive lists, trying not to put too much red tape on things so people can't get in or get to know how they get in. And I definitely remember seeing like events back in the day and being like, but prior to working in the industry, being like, oh, I didn't even know that, you know, this game was having an event. That's like my favorite game. How did I miss this? So I definitely think that element is something that we've brought over into, I brought over into my career professionally. Has been like, I want people, if they're excited about that game, I want them to be able to see it somewhere and never feel like they've missed out. And funny enough, I still get that today. And I'm just like, oh, dang, like we're clearly missing something here. Like somebody was like, I didn't even know Redfall was having an event in Sydney. I was like, okay, like where did we go wrong? How did we miss this person? And it can just be one person. But it's being like, okay, how did I miss that one person? Where are they? Like, what are they? Are they on Press Start? Are they watching like IGN videos, you know, or are they actually just on the Bethesda page and we just didn't hype it up enough? So I think it's, being like super inclusive of everybody is something that we're very conscious of, because I'd hate to exclude anybody. And I have seen, like, obviously when we're not perfect. We definitely don't claim to be, but we see comments occasionally like, I missed out on this event and I'm pretty devastated. I'm like, shit, okay, so how do we do better? How do we be more inclusive of these people? So yeah, I totally feel that.
Yeah, there's definitely those challenges that there's you know, obviously pushback from the community, and then there's, oh, do we have the budget to run this? And it's like, oh, like, can we and it's difficult because everyone wants to get paid, you know. We all do, and I think if we are investing time in a particular gaming community and we do want to, you know, host an event, money and all that kind of stuff comes into play. So it's definitely stressful at times. But you're all, you know what, we're all doing amazing. I think, you know, anything that we put passion into is will eventually come back around in karma, if that makes sense. So yeah, you guys, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. It's been a delight. I've just had a fantastic time, and I think that having more of these conversations, especially with prominent females in the community, is just going to really help elevate everything. Because when we all play, we all win. You know what I mean?
100%.
And I, you know what? I'm waffling again. I was interested to know that you guys, both Kim and Jessie, you both started with like female focused gaming content. That's so interesting.
I know.
Like,
I didn't know that. It's just so, when we all when it's like we started with a female like led thing, I'm like, oh yeah, like it's just, so we've got to start.
Yeah, my Twitch name was just Geek and Gamer Girl, and then I changed it when it was kind of my main focus. But obviously, Geek GG is basically that, just shortened a little bit, you know. Like, I feel like it was something that I decided after being such a closet gamer for so long, was that, you know, there needs to be more of a, you know, female presence in this industry and, you know, in the community. And I'm not saying that we don't exist already, but it's just something that I know that I've struggled with as a woman being a gamer since I was like, young enough to even hold a controller kind of thing, and feeling like I couldn't really be that person. And I honestly, since doing all of this, I think this is the most comfortable I've ever been with who I am. And I can actually be myself. And now I have anime tattoos and like, you know, green hair, and like I finally feel like I actually can be the person I've been my entire life and just wasn't really comfortable doing that. And
That's
having to kind of
beautiful,
hide
Jessie.
it from people. So yeah.
That's honestly, that's one of my motivations for this. And I know that there are people out there like yourself and Kim, like you don't have the time to put a whole podcast together. And and it's really, I think it's really nice to be able to not only like obviously meet up with other people, but you know, talk about the things that we love to talk about. And I've been podcasting for 2 years now, and I have not seen one where there hasn't been more than one female talking about gaming. And it could just be the space that I'm in. I don't listen to every single podcast about gaming out there, but this was my vision for the longest time now. So
honestly, I saw you announce that you were going to do it, and I thought it was a brilliant idea, and it's something that I think is a really good thing to have in this community. So I really appreciate you having me here, and I think you guys are doing an amazing job. I know it's not been going for very long, but yeah.
This is
super stoked that I'm super stoked it's something that, you know, you've actually put together and done. And yeah, I'm honored to get to be here and hang out with you guys and chat. And if you ever need somebody to just talk a lot about anything, please let me know.
Oh, you're gonna be choked up. Thank you so much, Jessie. Thank you. We're gonna stop it there, guys. I don't think there were any specific questions for you guys in the chat, but definitely both of you, thank you for coming. And Ellie, you're awesome as always. And your wingman there. Shout out to him. And can I just say, Ellie, every single podcast she's been like breastfeeding, like some of the podcasts. So like, well done to her. She's like that poker face. Like, oh my god, you're amazing.
Thank you. He's cracking at the moment, so I'm trying to keep it down.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Super impressive.
All right, thank you all so much for being here, and
thank you for having me.
No worries, and thank you to all of our Spotify listeners as well. All 13 of you. Thank you. Love your work, guys. We will see you next week.
Cute. See you, ladies. Bye.
Bye.